Hey, everybody, welcome to the Machine Shop Growth Podcast. My name is Mike Fritz. I am your host, and I hope you have heard the announcement of the Machine Shop Growth Podcast that we are going to weekly content. But the reason we're going to weekly content is because we kept getting questions like we felt like we were underserving some of the growth mechanisms in a shop. So Kirk is now doing 2 episodes around really floor management, really the ops, how you get a part through the floor profitably, what that looks like. Last week, he's talking about overall equipment efficiency, which is really, really important. Most people don't even think about that. So make sure you're listening to our ops show every other week. And then I will be leading our marketing and sales conversations of how you, as you know, we say here, top line, bottom line people, right? That's how we really grow. I really focus on that top line, and Kirk really focuses on that efficiency for bottom line. And so this is why we do it this way. But the value is you get some more specificity in the content and who we interview and who we talk to so that you can really get content for your floor. So if you haven't subscribed to the show, please do so. It really just helps us get the show out to more people. We really just, there are, as big as this world feels to us, it's a very small world, and we want to help as many shops out there as possible struggling. Because when I first entered the machine shop space, I can still remember the day I Googled, I went to Apple Podcasts and I hit machine shop, and crazy enough, Mr. Paul Van Meter's podcast came out and came up, and I'm like, dude, people actually talk about this stuff. So subscribe and share the show if you would. Give us a review. That helps us. But today I am super stoked. Today Nick and I have been, and I'll introduce our guest in just a second. But Nick and I have been trying to get this on the schedule for probably 3-4 months now. We after the end of the year stuff, we couldn't pull it off, and so I finally have been able to get Nick Goellner here. Who, if you don't know Nick, he'll give you a little bit of his story. He is the one of the founders of MakingChips, and he really is our point man in the whole podcast family. Which, geez, Nick, how many do we have now? 7, maybe in the family? 8?
So there's 9 right now.
9.
There's soon to be 11.
Oh, goodness sakes.
Yeah, a couple more that we're about to announce. Really excited about it. So,
Awesome.
and similar to you, when I first discovered, so I actually am not one of the founders. I'm one of the founders of this iteration of Making Chips.
See, learn something new every day.
But the 2 guys who started it, Jason and Jim, I discovered those guys when I was on my mower and I typed in like machining podcast or something because I didn't think any existed. And at the time there was one, and it was Making Chips.
Oh,
And
I love it.
I'm so into the content marketing business model where the product is the content. We're not just
Yep.
pitching other stuff the whole time. Like the value is the content itself. And I was reading all sorts of books about that. And I was like, these 2 guys are doing it. They're in Chicago, an hour away from me. And, we became fast friends. And then eventually I became a partner. And then both of those guys retired out of it. Brought in Mike and Paul, who you mentioned with
Yep.
Machine Shop Mastery. And then we were like, wow, this thing is really going crazy. And instead of having one podcast, there's like 50 manufacturing podcasts now. And I feel like a good chunk of those are part of this network that we've built. And so honored to be on your show because I've heard so many good things about it from other people. And when I listen, I really enjoy it. I'm a sales and marketing guy, so I'm pumped to talk with you.
I am too, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Nick has a long history in manufacturing, which we'll get into in a minute. And part of the reason we talk a lot about this is, great shops are ran by great machinists, right? But often great machinists, great engineers, great thinkers of the floor have not historically put enough emphasis on acquiring new customers. And they've kind of taken and I don't talk down to this because this has kept the machining industry around for hundreds of years. So this is not a new industry where a lot of it is word of mouth, kind of if they come, we'll make their parts. And what we want is your family to feel the wealth and the legacy of your shop because you thought about this. And this is why Nick is here today to help us talk. Really, today is going to be, how do you sell? So there's a very distinct difference between marketing and sales. And a lot of people don't even know the difference. And so let me give you a quick foundational difference. Marketing has to do with attraction of leads. Sales has to do what you say to those leads, right? And so what we want to do is, I'm not saying that they don't, hold hands a lot because they do. But today, Nick's going to talk a little bit about how we talk to people in this industry about getting their work to us, right? And so Nick, first of all, man, how did you? I know you grew up in this space. How did you get into this crazy world of manufacturing? Tell us what you're up to now, and then let's talk some sales.
Yeah, I'll try to be like real quick with my story. But so third generation family business. We do what Germans do. We immigrate to this country and start an engineering company and manufacturing company. And so my grandfather actually invented the first of its kind machine tool. It was a circular carbide production saw. So big circular saw blade, carbide teeth. And these are not like your job shop bandsaws. These are for like plowing through steel
Oh
and cutting
wow.
rail for the railroad industry. And That's kind of how we started. And then from there, he had a lot of partnerships from Europe who, like, hey, machine tools, you're an
Yeah.
engineer. Would you represent our products in the States? Because we want to grow into that market. And so one of those partnerships was Hennig. We ended up acquiring Hennig in 1999. Hennig is now Inc. 5,000, over 1,000 employees. We're in a lot of different markets. One of the most prominent for this audience is the machine tool market. So peripherals like conveyors and mist collectors and high pressure coolant systems. And we do work holding. We have a new automation product that we just released that automatically loads pallets into a 5X mill. So that's kind of the family business. And growing up, I was a fine artist. I did paintings and I
Mm,
was terrible at math. And all I cared about was my athletics and my girlfriend, who is now my wife.
I love
And paintings. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to go into this business. Well,
it.
my wife, they do what Italians do. So they immigrate and they start a restaurant, and they've got kind of one of the biggest restaurants in the city. I realized at the time fabricating stuff on the shop floor wasn't making me as much per hour as what fine dining would. So
Yeah.
I took a break from working at the shop for a while and started working for her restaurant. And then I'm like, okay, I want to marry the boss's daughter, and I'm not making enough money waiting tables to do that.
I love it.
So I go to my dad and I'm like, hey, dad, I never thought I would work for the company. And my mom was very much like, don't force the kids to do it.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
my dad had one choice and it
Yep.
was, you're going to take this business over. So he never really pressured us too much, but I think he just knew we would all come back to him. And so I like, hey, I got to start making more money. And what are your thoughts? I'm really into communications and marketing and, creating things. And he's like, yeah, I always knew you'd come back and you'll run sales and marketing for us someday. It's like, cool. So when can I start? He's like, you're not going to start in sales and marketing. You're going to go be a field service guy. Because I really was more interested in the marketing than being in sales. And his thought was like, if you're going to write the content for our website to 1,000 people, thousands of people, like you need to be able to make sure you can solve one person's problem and use the language that they use and make
Oh
sure
wow,
you
that's
don't sound like all these marketing talking heads who are like, oh, we get manufacturing, and then they don't, and
they don't.
especially in this industry, you say a few words wrong and people are just like rolling their eyes at you. So
Yeah.
that was probably the best advice my dad ever gave me, and that's where I started field service. And then, and this may lead into some of what we talk about today, but I always had a target on my back. I was the boss's son, right?
Yep.
And so it was like, okay, well, how do I make sure that there's no nepotism accusations and that, I'm doing my job and I'm doing well? And I was like, how do we even measure how the traveling salespeople do and how the traveling service people do? And we were supposed to write up like a full detailed call report of all of our visits and then send it into the sales manager. And this guy was busy. There's no way he ever read any of them. And so I'm like, "God, I mean, like I had a really good week this week. I want everyone to know." And I would write these things, and I knew he wouldn't read them. And finally, I started Googling back to marketing. I'm searching for an answer to a problem, and I'm like, how do you manage industrial sales? How do people manage field salespeople and this and that? The company that created all that content, they were great at marketing, was a company called Salesforce, a big popular CRM company. You can't
Yep.
watch a football game without seeing their commercials anymore.
No. Wow.
And and so I started researching and I'm like, Dad, we don't need to send paragraphs in that just get lost in the abyss. We need to have like a real CRM system. And after I made a case for it, he's like, yeah, okay, do that now. Now that's what you do. And so I built the first CRM system for our company, and I tried to make sure all our sales guys were doing the right things and building a targeted list of prospects and reaching out to those prospects and logging what happened when they were there and what the opportunity is, putting all the deals in the pipeline. And then, that brought me back to marketing because I'm like, hey, we really don't get a lot of inbound opportunities. It's all about the outside guys. So then I swung back over into a marketing role, built the website, tried to get a lot of inbound opportunities. We were successful in that. And then it swung back over to like, all right, I need my sales guys to do more with these leads. And so then went into sales management, then eventually sales director, then vice president of sales, and now I'm the CMO of the Goellner Inc. businesses. So
I love it.
condensed story. There's a lot that happened in there. I tried to do it as fast as possible.
No, what I love about that story is number one, I just love family legacy. One
Yeah.
of the reasons when we buy companies, our passion is to keep names on the billboard, like to keep the names the same, to maybe
Hmm.
roll up under a parent company, but keep the name. We just love legacy. Like we're looking
Hmm.
at our next acquisition is a company that was started by a guy, aerospace now, and he's passed away, and the kids are trying to run it, but they don't really know it, and it's going
Hmm.
down, and we're trying to save it, and but we love legacy, and so I love what that means and what your legacy will continue to be in the industry. And so I really love that. One of the things I want, so as we think, you've worked in shops, shops, you talk with them probably all the time. What are if you're a guy sitting at the shop, start talking a little bit about sales. Now it sounds like with marketing, you do a lot of marketing. We can hit on that as well because they go
Sure.
hand in
Yeah.
hand. But I've got this shop guy. Maybe he's doing or girl. He's doing 1.5 million, doing a couple $1 million. He's hit that, all elusive ceiling of a couple $1 million and can't bust through it. And or he's $1 million shop, or he's a $5 million shop. Doesn't really matter. How should we be thinking about sales? Let's give a mindset around sales, and we'll get into some specificity around what we actually are doing to sell more product and more service. But give us the mindset. How do you think about sales in a company? Like, what's your first thought around sales? Are we thinking about it? What about a guy that can't afford a team and it's got to maybe do it himself? Let's start talk a little bit. Let's frame the mindset, and then we'll talk a little bit about the specifics.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to answer that question, but I promised you some breaking news, and you just talked about legacy and family business.
Oh, I love it.
So last night that girl that I ended up marrying from the restaurant just announced that we're going to have our fifth child. So
Oh,
yeah. So
fifth baby,
there's
dude.
some like as the company grows, you just got to keep
You just
populating
got,
your
dude.
family
That's
business members.
absolutely. That's why pastors have children. That's how they grow their congregation when they start.
Yeah, is that what it is? I love it. Yeah. So I'll answer your question. I think I say this all the time, but like everything starts with a list, and the minute you don't have a list of targets because you're just comfortable with who's already bringing the revenue into your business, is the minute that you've made the decision like we're not a growth focused company. I don't need any targets. I'm comfortable with what I have. And I've heard you talk a lot on your pods about like the best place to look for new business is with your existing customers. And I agree with that. But
Yeah.
like I'm still prospecting.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
the
You
whole
should
sales
be.
organization flows up to me, but I'm still prospecting. It looks different for me than it does for like a regional territory person, like who's on my list, but everyone needs a list. You have to have
Absolutely.
a written, finite, workable list. So written, like if someone says like, "Oh, I have a list. I have 6,000 contacts in my CRM that I could go after. They're known machine shops." Like that's not a list because it's not workable. You're not going to like actually work a 6,000 person list. So
Nope.
like prioritize the top 10. We say TTTs, the top 10 targets. Who are your top 10 targets for whatever your role is that you've already kind of pre-qualified them and you know that they are the type of business and then eventually the type of individual at that business who can really move the needle if you were to become partners and do business together and then work the list. Make sure as you get busier that you always have a chunk of your schedule for prospecting and just reaching out, networking, connecting with people who are on that list.
Yeah, dude, I have said this for a lot of time in the manufacturing. What I've realized is a busy backlog often is the soil from which apathy grows.
Yeah, yeah.
Problem with a busy backlog and apathy growing where I'm not looking at the three T's, the top 10 targets,
Hmm.
it's because, hey, I'm slammed with work. Well, we know this is why shops go up and down. They're slammed with work and they're focused on getting work out the door, but not getting more work. And so what happens is a lot of times a busy backlog, I actually get more scared when I see a busy backlog from our team and press a little bit harder because I'm like, guys, here's the deal. This is the time when cash flow is strong. Let's leverage that cash flow to grow the company. Let's not slow down because it's such a dead time from the sales team. The sales team pulls the gas off when the backlog's crazy, right?
Hmm.
And so in the machining industry, we know when we cross that 8, 10 week target, depending on what kind of machines you have, customers start maybe looking at vendors that can collapse that time. So the question is, well, I've sold to my 8 week backlog. I've sold to my 10 weeks. I don't really want to sell too much further than that, or I won't get the jobs anyway. And then we stop thinking sales minded. So I
Hmm.
love that you started to freaking have a list. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
simple, right?
And you just said sales minded. Maybe even a step before having the list is making sure you have the right mindset.
Yeah,
So like whatever you got to do to have an abundant growth oriented mindset. And some people just don't
it's
want
true.
to grow, like,
It's
and that's
true.
okay. Like not everyone needs to be this like crazy growth focused entrepreneur who wants to make a $50 million business. But like most people do. Most people in business want to grow.
Yeah,
And so you have to have this not to be like weird new agey about it, but you have to have like an abundant mindset,
you
you
definitely
know?
do. And
And
you know
if you're
what?
always worried that, and if you're always contracting and you're always trying to, hoard what you have and protect what you
Oh,
have, like you're not, you won't have a list that you're working because you're just
totally,
only
dude.
worried about your backlog.
No, I love what you said. There's two things I'll comment on there. One, the first thing about the new agey. This is one thing I would like to continue to bring into the manufacturing space is the mindset of abundance, the mindset of thinking
Yeah.
collaboration, which is starting to turn where it's not my shop, my four walls. We're starting
Yeah.
to partner with other people, which is great. But the second thing you said was you talked first about I forgot about the second thing you said. You just said
We could, we
the
could
growth
edit it.
mindset. The growth
Yeah. Yeah.
mindset,
Yeah.
dude. If you don't have the growth mindset, you eventually are going to you're just gonna shrink. And so
Yeah.
I
The
wish
lack
we
of
could
a
bring
growth
more of that in.
mindset creates the scarcity that you were worried about in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a
It's a
cycle, right?
self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah,
Totally it
exactly.
is, man. Totally it is. And so you've got this list, and this is what I love. And you just mentioned, and I want to underline one of the things we talk about is going to your current customers first.
Yeah.
But there's a big but there. And here's if we're always leveraging current customers and one of those customers decide to bring it in house or to outsource or to XYZ, there's always risk in a stable customer. And I want people to see that. And so the list creates, in my opinion, it creates safety around if a customer leaves, right?
Hmm.
And so anyway, I wanted to underline that even in our own philosophy, we believe current customers they're always a risk. They could leave, right?
Yeah, yeah, and customer concentration is something that you really need to be concerned about.
Yes, it is.
Like how many shops got their start because they were just an overflow partnership with another shop or an OEM, and then that becomes 70 or 80% of your revenue. That OEM has a leadership change or philosophical change, and they decide to start bringing stuff in-house. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're
Yeah,
done.
exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, and we have and like look, a lot of the times I say stuff, it's not like we have it all figured out. Um, we're not a job shop at Hennig. We make peripherals for the machine tools that job shops use.
Yep.
But there's a company that's pretty well known, American machine tool builder, that we did about 80% of their chip conveyors, and that was a huge part of our capacity. And I want to talk about like moving the constraint too. So we'll put a pin in this for a second, but they were such a big chunk of our capacity. The margins aren't awesome.
Yep.
And then they want to give us more work and more work and more work. And like we really want to fill our capacity first with the type of customers that actually bring something to the bottom line. Like you could have 100 million in revenue and lose your ass. And
Yep.
so yeah, so we really want to, make sure we have the right customers first, and then if there's excess capacity that we maybe take some less than ideal work, that's okay. But if you don't have a list, you can't be picky and choosy at all.
Yeah.
You just have to take what you can get. You have to keep the lights on. And so
Yeah.
we made a conscious effort to diversify who we're serving and to really focus on all the machine tool brands that we can. And fast forward 2 years, our concentration is totally different. We actually did less sales the first year we made that conscious effort, less sales overall, and way less sales with that one big account. And we were more profitable than we were the prior year.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's pause because sales and profitability are inextricably connected, but often aren't connected in a lot of people's minds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The how we sell and who we sell to there's some big aerospace companies that will remain nameless, Boeing, that
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that margins are tiny. You got to make a lot of stuff for them. Margins are tiny. They're
It's the new automotive, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it is. It
and they
is.
don't
It
pay
is.
you on time,
And they don't
and
pay on, and they pay their terms are like they pay a couple times a year if that. And so it's like sometimes big customers are not where your profitable customers are, and
Mhm.
people don't think sell less, make more. That's not in people's mindset, right? It's like my top line went down a couple hundred grand or millions depending on your
Yeah.
size, and my bottom line went up.
Yeah,
And
you need
so
both. I mean,
you
sometimes you want to
do.
sell less to make more, but really you want to maybe sell less to certain customers and have a list that you're effectively converting into customers, and now you
Bingo.
can sell more and make more. And
Absolutely.
that's why
So
we
let's
had
go
such a
back to
good year
something
last year.
you said earlier. You said set a time aside. I want to underline this. Set
Yeah.
some time aside for the top 10 targets, the three T's you called them.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit because I think if I come to my shop, oh man, I got this and this, and John needs a new setup out here, and that part's done running over there. I got to go reload. Like how do we do that? So the real shop people on the shop floor, how can we do that?
Yeah,
Once they're
the
done.
your top target list is never the fire you need to put out. It's never like, oh my gosh, I got to call this guy first thing today, but you might have to make sure you got that employee who's on the fence and make sure they're feeling okay or a machine's down or whatever it is. So this is the whole Eisenhower matrix of important versus urgent.
It's just so good.
Yeah,
So we've never
prospecting is
talked about that
always
on here.
important. Okay, so you've got your X and your Y,
Yep.
and you've got four quadrants, and you've got urgent and important.
Yep.
So prospecting is always important, but it's rarely urgent. And so there's the things that you absolutely have to do that are important and urgent. Those are the first things you need to do. There's a lot of things that aren't important and aren't urgent, and you should just stop thinking about them because it's a squirrel. And then there's things that are urgent but not important. That's the area where way too many shop leaders live. It's urgent, like, oh, yeah, someone needs this, someone needs that. Every time you get an email, you got to respond to it. Or every time someone walks into your office, you got to go out into the shop and help them find the tool they lost or whatever they asked you to do.
Right. Right.
Like, it's like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
and when you do that, you never do the important but not urgent stuff.
Exactly.
And that's where prospecting lives. And so you have to protect that time. You
Exactly.
and then like we could get into messaging. I'm sure you'll want to get into that, but I probably am not the person to talk to about messaging because I'm like, I don't know where do they hang out? Those people on your list. What do they do? What do they talk like? Go be
Yep.
there and connect with them and be human.
Exactly.
And I try to keep it that I don't really have a lot of like scripts and stuff like that. It's just like I could if you were on my list, I could listen to some of your podcasts, be like, I think I figured out. I got this guy pegged. I know what makes him tick. I know what he's passionate about. I know where he's gonna be because you'll say, "Hey, I'm gonna be at this show or that show, or I live in this part of the country or whatever," and then I'll just figure out how to be where you're at, and then connect with you and be like, "Hey, I've been listening to this." Find one or two things that you want to say to that person, and then just build a real, normal human connection. There's so
Yeah.
much spam out there. These sequences on LinkedIn, like connect, hit them with a stupid message
Yeah.
that they hate, and then hit them with another stupid message that they hate even more, and then they'll just never want to talk to you. I think that type of sales leadership is really annoying. So end of
It
rant.
is. It is. It is. In fact, I had a company years ago I used on LinkedIn where when somebody sends you a connect, they automatically get a message. It's just basically CRM inside of a LinkedIn. I never had any business out of it. I annoyed a bunch of people, and it was the stupidest thing. And so
Yeah,
it's an exact example of what you're saying that this is like it's like it doesn't change. So back to your
yeah,
quadrant. I love
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The urgent and important relationship. So I love what you said about prospecting is important, but it's rarely urgent. And here's what I have realized about prospecting. I tell our team prospecting or reaching out to new customers, it's kind of like a small fire.
Hmm.
And it starts, and every time your backlog goes down, that fire gets a little bigger. And then a customer will put another order in and that fire goes down a little bit. But some days that fire is burning so bright that you have no work to do, right? And so
Hmm.
this is why I'm like, it's not urgent until it is. And when it
Hmm.
is, it's very important.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Now
so
you're
this is
running
why
around like it with that scarce mindset, trying to like beg for work, and you
yeah.
don't ever want to sell from a desperate position.
Oh gosh, no. Gosh, no. And this is so let's say I have my top 10 target.
Mhm.
And I'm clipping along and I'm doing work, I'm paying my bills, and it's not great, but it's not bad either. I'm above the EBITDA line. I'm 15-20% margin. So I sit back and I'm like, I'm doing pretty good. I hear this podcast, I'm like, all right, you know what, Nick and Mike are right. Let's get this list. Let's go after it. What do we do first? How do you vet the level? Like I'm assuming in that list there some people head to the top and some people head a little bit closer to the bottom of that list. How do you file those away in 1 through 10?
Yeah, so there's like actual qualification, and then there's some pre-qualification. So,
Yeah.
pre-qualification is typically like more business-based accounts. So, like, I know these are the type of businesses that have the work that I
that,
want.
that you want. Yep.
Yeah. And so start there. Everyone's got their dream customer. If you're that shop who just got your AS9100 or your ITAR and
Yeah.
you want to get into that aerospace, you know who it is right now while you're listening. You're like, I want to do work for that company.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and so it usually starts with businesses, but then businesses don't buy things, people do. So I prioritize by like the accounts that, my top target accounts that fit my ideal customer profile, to use another kind of buzzword, but
Yep.
like who you dream about when you think about the type of work you want. But then you have to find people within those accounts. Like, who are the individuals who actually make the decisions? And that's
Absolutely.
where, like some qualification comes in. So you're hitting that top target list, and you maybe there's first off, there's a lot of work you can do to figure out who those people are before you even call. LinkedIn's a thing. Um,
It does
you
exist.
know, it works pretty good.
Yeah.
And when I call, I make like an assumptive tone to my voice. So it's like, "Hey, what's up? Can I talk to Mike? This is Nick from Advanced or from Hennig." It's like, oh, that sounds like he's supposed to talk to Mike, not like, "Hi, here's who I am, blah 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 blah, blah. I sound like Mr. Salesperson. Let me talk." If you want to get past the gatekeeper, it's almost like use a tone like Mike's your friend and you just want to get a hold of him. And you got to ask him a quick question. Sometimes just the way you sound is what gets you through. I've noticed that a lot. But then,
Absolutely.
once you actually get a hold of that person, then that's where I wouldn't say script, but certain like kind of talking points and the things that are going to work when you first get a hold of that individual who's at that ideal customer. You gotta be ready because that person's usually a busy person. They don't have a ton of time, and whatever you say in the first 30 seconds matters. So, and
Agreed.
I always just take the approach of being like, I don't know, radically authentic and trying not to sound like a salesperson.
Yeah. I think that this may be one of the better conversations we've had on this podcast, especially on a ground up level. Like if people aren't really doing sales, what do you do next? And this is
Mhm.
this is excellent. So you first start off. So of that 10 list, Nick, would you suggest you go into, like, let's say that we call it a dormant customer list, maybe people you haven't done work for in a while. Do you think you start there? Do you think you start more with people that you haven't done work for ever? What are your thoughts?
Um,
A bit of both, maybe.
yeah, I would say a bit of both. Like if it's a dormant customer and you loved the work you used to do, and maybe you're new in sales and the person who was running it before just didn't stay on top of their customers, but you look back to some of those margin reports and you're like, man, that was good work. What
Yeah,
happened?
sure.
Like
Yeah,
that can make your top 10 list. I almost think of dormant as might as well be a stranger, might as well be a new prospect. But the difference is they're a little bit more qualified because you know the work you used to get out of them and you probably know some individuals who work there.
yep, yep,
So
yep.
yeah, I like starting with some dormant customers when they're the right customers. Like basically when you have an understanding what the profitability could be like or the long-term opportunity could be like.
Absolutely. And we haven't talked about this enough, probably on our podcast, but dormant customers comes with often a psychological hurdle. There's a
Yeah.
reason you're a dormant customer. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to get over that hurdle to even be able to have a conversation. Maybe you lost the work because your quality was bad, your delivery was bad. The guy just didn't like you. You ticked a guy off in a meeting and he's like, those jerks, I don't want to work with. You don't know what you have. So
I'll
sometimes,
give you a real example. I
you
talked
know,
about the conveyor thing. So we were making conveyors for, a big popular company and soaking up a lot of our capacity. And then we had this intentional, let's diversify. One of the companies that we diversified to on the East Coast had a leader who, for whatever, some random issue with service 15 years ago, he was like, I'm never going to work with Hennig. And so we kind of took them off of our list because we knew we were blackballed there. Maybe we took them off of our list for too many years because my regional guy makes a contact. they're like, hey, look, that guy retired. We're always open to hear what's different about. This is like a generation has passed. Okay, so like, well, let's reconnect. We reconnect. We do 90% of their business. It's a huge part of how we diversified, did less sales, and we're more profitable. So yeah, perfect example of like
Yeah.
that hurdle you had to overcome. Like there was just one guy who was never going to deal with my company. He
Yep.
retired. Now it's not so much of a
Mhm.
hurdle, is it?
Exactly. That's a great example of what I mean. And if that guy still is there, it probably shouldn't even make your top 10 yet. And
Mhm.
because if they've got a, I mean, we had our GM one time tick a guy off just in a meeting, suggested they do something different in the meeting, and they've always done it that way, and that offended them. That they don't think our process is good, and our GM was just trying to make a different idea way to do. And they're like, screw those guys. They think they're better than everybody. Well, you're just not going to overcome that, and that's
Yeah.
okay. You know what I
And
mean?
don't waste your time. I mean, there's so many people to do business with. So
Exactly.
that's another little sidebar tip. Like once someone disqualifies themselves, don't work super hard to requalify them. Like there's plenty of people who are already qualified.
Yep, yep. And we always drop a line at the end of a disqualificational conversation or an email where we realize something's happened. Hey, we understand this didn't go as planned. Let us know if you need anything in the future. We'd be happy to have a conversation. And
Yeah.
let us sit.
Just
Let
keep
us
the
sit.
door open.
Just
Yeah.
keep it open. Exactly. So now you've got this list. How do you tend to in our digital age? You've got social media, meaning LinkedIn-ish. You've got emails.
Mhm.
You've got personal visits. You've got phone calls. You got this trinity of or maybe quadrant of way to reach out with social media, email, in person, and phone call. How do you? Where are your chess pieces on that quadrant? Where are you? Where are you looking
Yeah,
or
this
starting? I
is
should say.
where this is where there's better people to teach this topic than me because I don't really have like a super clear defined process on how like I'm gonna do two LinkedIn messages, one email, two
Yeah,
calls,
yeah.
or in-person visit. I just kind of like some sales leader who wrote a book is like, see, that's the problem. I just kind of go with what I think is going to work. If the well, like I'm not going to reach out to the person on LinkedIn first if they have no activity on LinkedIn. I'll do that, but that's not going to be my first thing. But if they're super active on LinkedIn, I'll reach out to them that way. If I have a cell phone number, I always call people's cell phones. Uh, that's
Yeah.
like seems to be the best way to get a hold of people.
Yeah.
Email is almost never my first step. Everyone gets enough spam, so like to introduce yourself via email. I'm sure there's a way to do it that's better than what I receive 600 times a day, but
Well, and
I
I
don't
think
usually
this is
start
good.
there.
I think this is good because what you're sharing is that there is a way to think about initial contact. Number one, if you're going to do social media, do some background. Are they even
Yeah.
on? I mean, maybe they have a profile, but they haven't posted in 7 years. Probably not a great place to send a message. Um,
Yeah, the
you know,
worst, the most frustrating thing is when there's no background at all. Like they like just I post a few times a week, right?
yeah,
Like look at what I do and who I am, and then don't send me a message that's clearly like never going to be something I'm interested in.
exactly,
Like do
exactly.
your homework. So
Yep,
yeah.
yep, exactly. So I want people to see. So if you have this list, sometimes for us, it depends on where the lead, I'll call it, came from.
Mhm.
Like if John say, hey, have you guys ever reached out to so and so? They might be a good customer for you. I was talking to the guy the other day. I might, if I've got a really good relationship with John, I'm like, hey, would you mind just making an intro email so I don't have to call him, bust open his,
Yeah.
you
I'm
know,
glad you talked about referrals because referrals is definitely the first place to start. If
yeah,
you
it
if
is.
you have referrals, if you have happy customers who want to connect you with other customers, and you talked about at the end of the conversation leaving the door open, at the
Yeah,
end of every good conversation being like, "Hey, do you know anyone else in the area who you think I'd be a good fit for?" Something nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people actually do, and it's so easy and
it's
it's so
so easy.
beneficial, and it automatically populates the top of your target list for you.
Yeah.
And that person's not going to recommend someone that they don't think is qualified. So it's already more qualified than your, strangers list that you had before.
Totally. Talk about this. What's your perspective of this, Nick? I have always said sales is simply a conversation and clearly explaining the value I bring to somebody, right? And so But a lot of machine shops have this mindset because if I'm a machine shop, I often hate, not I don't hate it, but a lot of like shop owners that are engineering minded, they hate getting cold calls. Hey, do you guys need any new machines? Who's doing your
Hmm.
shipping and your freight and blah 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 blah? Who does your heat treat and where are you getting things plated and blah blah blah? Right? They hate those kind of calls. So they assume supply chain managers or project managers or engineers or whoever's doing the ordering for wherever out in your customer, they assume they hate that too. But I
Mm.
can tell you what, a lot of supply chain managers don't hate getting conversations or calls from people that can truly solve some of their supply chain issues, right?
Yeah. So knowing what those issues are across that persona, or like a
Mm-hmm.
persona being like a group of people who shares the same types of jobs that they do every day, challenges, pains that
Yep.
they feel, gains that they're trying to achieve. So like knowing the persona is very important before you start cold calling. Because if you were a manufacturing engineer or supply chain manager at a
Yep.
shop, and I said,
Yep.
"Hey, do you ever find that outside processes is like a huge part of your ability to hit your on-time delivery, and you feel like you can't control that?" Like that's something pretty much everyone in those categories has felt
Everybody.
before.
Yep.
So if you just start with that question instead of like, "Do you need heat treating?" I'm a heat treater.
Right.
Like, but if you ask, if you get them talking about the problem that you're pretty sure they feel, ask a few questions, find one where you found alignment, like, yeah, they have this problem. And then from that problem, be like, well, here's what makes us different in our ability to solve that problem with you or
Yeah.
for you. So
Yeah. I
you
think
just
that's
start as a consultant instead of a salesperson, you know?
exactly. That's why we talk a lot at American Precision Partners. One of the reasons our name is what it is and our tagline, we put the part in partnership, is we truly believe if somebody hires us, it is a partnership relationship. We go there, we help them think about processes and the way they're making parts and how they're making parts and what timing they're making parts and how much they need each time. And we help them think through that. So when we come to the table, I'm not, of course, we've got to be paid for what we do, but I'm not a beggar for work. I'm like, dude, I'm an
Mhm.
integral part to the team so you guys can save money. That's a different, I call with a different energy, bro, if I'm thinking that way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the other thing about the energy and the mindset. I always say, like, you're calling people because you really think you can help them. Like
Exactly.
you're not bothering them in your
Exactly.
mind. You're like, hey, I know I can help this company. And when you have that, like, hey, look what I can do for you. I really think this can work. What do you think? It's just a different energy and it's contagious. And then the other thing you said, it's so cool about this network we've built with making chips because there's so much alignment and we don't even talk
No, I
about
know, right?
like we don't even talk about every show that we're going to release. It's not like we say, "Hey, this one comes out on Making
Yeah.
Chips
Right.
tomorrow and we talked about this." But literally the last time I recorded with Mike and Paul, we talked about the word job shop. That's not a good word. Because
Mm.
like a job shop's just very transactional. Like, give me your job, shop your jobs to me. Like, give me your
Yeah.
jobs. And then like a job on the other market that we're all competing in for talent, like you don't want to offer someone a job, you want to offer them a career.
Or a position. Exactly.
Exactly, like something
Exactly.
where they can have a future. A job is something you do for a
Yeah.
summer before you go back to college.
That's a great way to put that. Yeah.
So
That's a good
and we
point.
talked about the
A
word
good point.
partnership. Like if you're just a job shop,
Totally.
like, yeah, find a job shop to do this one job for us. But if
Yeah.
you're a partnership, it's like, hey, find a key partner that we can use long term. And so I just love that you guys do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and part of the reason we've done that is we've seen the most benefit out of going into customer meetings with a partner mindset of not going in there thinking, oh, I hope they give us our RFQs, but going in there and saying, okay, what's the hiccup of your processes? Where are you getting stuck? What parts are, I mean, I know our parts are showing up on time. Are other parts not showing up on time? You know what I mean? Sometimes when machines
Hmm.
have to get outside processing done, like you said, they have to get plating and heat treating. Sometimes they don't plan well. So those parts show up late, but it's not actually the machine shop's fault. And so when you talk with them, it's like, I'm saying, just tell me where your hiccups are. And
Yeah.
now again, this is straying away from the first initial conversation, but it's thinking partner. So I'm really actually I never thought about what you just said about job shop, but you're right. That's a very transactional word.
Hmm.
It's a really good perspective. Yeah, very.
Yeah. So I think we're kind of going through the process here. We may need to do a part two because this
Yeah, we're
two
gonna have to
guys
land the
like us
plane.
can go for a while. But
Yeah.
um, the okay, so you've got a list. You're figuring out how to prioritize that list and who
Yep.
deserves your time first.
Yep.
And how you're there to help them and carrying that energy. Also, though, you're there to make sure you're not wasting their time and they're not wasting your time, and that's where qualification is so important. Like, I don't know if you've ever talked about BANT or like any sort of qualification framework on your show, but you need to make sure that whoever you're talking to has the budget for your solution,
Yep.
has the authority. That's a huge problem. Like, people don't go up to the top
Yep.
to where the actual decision maker is. That you feel a need that they really have. Back to like some of those initial questions. That's even the first thing you start with is some of this is qualification, and
Yep.
then like timeline. If they need parts tomorrow, or in 3 days, like have them call send, cut, send, or whatever,
Yeah, right. Right.
But if they need like more of that long-term partnership for more of a
Yeah.
complex manufacturing partnership, yeah, then that maybe the timeline that's more realistic for most shops works. So
Yeah. Well, and here I'll give you R when I have my top 10 list. This is what I do.
yeah,
And I want you in live to tell me I would tweak this and this, or tell me if it's good. So this is
yeah,
not
yeah,
stroke my ego. I want you to push back because I want our listeners to see this is real. So
yeah.
like when I have a list, I will often send an email and follow up with a phone call on the email so that I have something to reference in the phone call. So I'll say, hey, I shot you a message. Just want to make sure you got it. And this is what that first initial email sounds like is, hey, we just delivered some parts just like it looks like you guys make in your shop. Of course, I've done some work to know this. We just delivered some parts. We have a X number, a quality rating, meaning 99.47% of our parts meet quality and 94.9% meet on-time delivery or whatever your numbers are. We'd love to just take a look at any parts you have. We have some mill and lathe capacity available or whatever your machine is. Let us know if a conversation is worthy. That's all we really say. I send that in and I call and reference.
So you just made me feel better about emailing first because like I consider what you just said a best practice. Something we should do more of. Because like if you just fire off an email and you're a stranger, you're just some name in their Outlook inbox or whatever,
Yep.
they'll forget about you. But it was like a tandem call plus email. And when you call, if they are interested, what's the next thing they're going to ask you to do? Why don't you send me some information? Well,
Sure.
I already did.
Yeah.
I already did. You'll have something in your inbox. If you need something more than that, reply. Now you've got a dialogue going.
Now you got a conversation.
So
Exactly.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. Because like I said, I want people to understand like you don't have to, you don't have to show up in these guys' doorstep on Christmas Eve to get work, right? So you know what I mean? I mean, like it doesn't have to be that
unless you're
creepy.
desperate, unless your whole scarcity mindset, like, please, I need to get
Yeah,
gifts.
I
for
need
my
some
children.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Maybe
Exactly.
they'll do it out of pity. Because
Yeah,
it's Christmas Eve.
exactly. So takeaways today. First things first is get your list made. Get your what you call TTT, top 10
Top
targets.
10 targets. Yeah.
I like that.
And
I like that.
maybe it's 20 or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah.
Don't have it be top 1,000. Okay.
Right. I've got a CRM, dude. There's 39,000 people that I bought
Yeah.
at a design to part show over the last 32 years.
And as you're working it, if some of them fall out, like they've disqualified, then replace them with new ones. But don't
Yeah.
have a endless list because
No,
that's no list at all.
Exactly. I think that's fantastic. So if you're going to create that list, you create that list, and then here's the other thing. Sometimes supply chain managers at big OEMs, if that's your target,
Mhm.
those emails ain't on the website. So even finding those emails it is a skill set. And believe me,
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of
Yeah.
years learning that is that, Joe that does, $15 million of purchasing for a big OEM, he ain't just putting his contact out there because he would not get anything done. He'd get 6,000 emails a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so a lot of those emails are not just on the website, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's worth noting because that's not always easy to get if you're going after big OEMs or something like
Yeah, as you're working through the authority part of BANT, like the first person you talk to may not have the authority. That doesn't mean you screwed up.
Yeah, exactly.
That just means you got to work your way up to that person before you
Bingo.
really start selling.
Yep, exactly. So again, your list. Then I think, what you just said, Nick, what I love about this is it's thinking about it like designing a part, right? So anytime I get a part, I look at a print, I say, okay, what would be best? It's a 2-op part. Maybe I may put it in this machine, that machine. Okay, how am I going to program that? Like there's thinking. But when we come to sales, we don't bring the same process. I said for years in this industry, Kirk is my guy that knows how to make parts and program parts. I look and study how to program customers because
Yeah.
if you don't know both, you don't succeed in both, right?
Yeah,
And
I
so
love
I love
that.
this conversation.
Yeah. And you talked about the dynamic between you and Kirk, and I said, "Hey, I want to talk about moving the constraint," like 30 minutes ago. And
Yeah.
so my brother is our president. He's more of a lean operations type guy. And so we
Yep.
use a lot of lean language and like, where's the constraint? Where's the bottleneck?
Yep.
And if you're growing that bottleneck, you're playing hot potato between sales and operations. Like sell it. Okay, now we're at capacity. All right, well, I'm struggling because lead times are getting extended. We're totally booked. Increase capacity, buy machines, get more space, hire more people. Okay,
Yep.
now we've got capacity. Now sell it again. And what that is just that's growth.
It's
That
the ultimate seesaw of a northeast trajectory on a growth chart.
Yeah,
It is
exactly. It's this
100%.
like joke between my brother, like
It is.
who's got the ball, and it's
It
fun.
is. It's back and forth. It's this. It's this. Oh, we're slammed on capacity. We need machines, automation, whatever we need. Oh no,
Mhm.
we got all the automation now. Now we can run lights out. Can we? Which you guys know all about. And now,
Yeah,
how do we make sure that that runs with whatever? So I like the sales is not a static conversation. It's a continual conversation for the two people that usually don't get along. Your engineers and your salespeople.
yeah, exactly. Love it.
And but Nick, thanks again, man. I know that we got to land the plane here. I really appreciate your time today, and your expertise in the sales world is excellent. I'm so grateful. And obviously, if you have not met Nick and you're going to be at IMTS, dude, they got to get over and get your booth. Your booth was awesome last year.
Yeah, and all of our hosts will be recording this year, so I'm signing you up, Mike.
Oh,
We're gonna
absolutely.
we're
We'll
gonna
be
have a
there.
live booth, and we hope you're doing some content there. Because
Oh,
believe it or
absolutely. We'll
not,
be
I
doing the
gotta I
content.
gotta sell when I'm at the show. I can't just podcast the whole time.
I know.
I need
Even
you to
though
take
that's what you
some
want to, maybe. Yeah.
some
No.
shifts on the mic.
We'll be there. I might. I'm still deciding. I was talking to one of the guys the other day. We were talking about putting up a booth for our automation company, but we may just go this year um as a vendor, or I mean as a
Yeah, just to scout
customer.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
scout it a little bit.
got it a little bit.
Hey, you talked about referrals. So I was able to hire Eric Nekic, who co-hosts Lights Out with me, and he leads sales. He was always my sales mentor on process, and
I love it.
I mean, he's very, very like procedural, but he's also very human. So if you want a great industry person for any sort of sales process topic, I got to refer Eric Nekic to you. He's a stud.
Great. Maybe we'll have to have him on as the part two, or have you both on and just have a fun combo.
Yeah, no, you should have him on and be like, what are all the things Nick got wrong? That'd be
Yeah,
hilarious.
right. Where
Because
do
I'm
you
sure there's a lot. Yeah.
no. Again, as you all know that are listening, we're very tactical on this show because I think that theory really doesn't move any of your shops forward. And so we're very tactical. So as you go away today, make that 10 list, put a line next to each of them of a strategy on how to reach out to them. And then for the love of God, just do it. Just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Make it urgent and important.
Absolutely.
Then you'll do it.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for coming in today. And again, everybody, thank you for listening. As always, we're so grateful. We've only got about 17 episodes out there. We just crossed 5,000 downloads because of all of you. And so we're actually pretty thankful, pretty excited about that. We crossed it over the weekend, this weekend. And so over 17 episodes, 5,000 downloads. We're happy with year one, and now year two is going to be even better. So,
And we are so happy to have your podcast as part of the Making Chips Network. It's so fun, and yeah, celebrate those milestones. They keep adding up. After 500 episodes, you'll be over 1 million too.
That's our goal, man. That's our goal. So, hey, we thank you all. Thank you all for what you all do for the industry. And again, Nick, thank you for joining today, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, had a blast.
All right, take care, everybody. So again, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Those positive reviews really do fuel us forward, and we'd love a review from you so that we could go and continue to impact people in this amazing industry of machining. So we are so grateful. And again, we are doubling our content this year. No more 2 episodes a month. We're going to 4 episodes a month. And a couple of them will be sales, marketing, growth. The other 2 will be ops, engineering, and the floor. It'll really be the floor, like what happens on the floor, right? We're so grateful for all of you. So make sure that you tune in next week for another episode of Machine Shop Growth Podcast. Thank you all. Have a great week.